You know discomfort is going to help you grow, but you don't know how to move towards it. It's okay. We all need some encouragement. In this video, I'm going to share 3 practical ways that you can embrace discomfort so that you can step into your highest, most successful self. My name is Eric Osborne, and for 13 years, I've been helping people just like you become their next highest version of themselves through intentional use of sacred mushrooms. Now, in my last video, we talked about the value of discomfort and how intrinsic that is to the work that we do with these psilocybin or sacred mushrooms. But the work doesn't stop there. As a matter of fact, that is very often just the beginning of the real work that we have to do to effect change in our lives. And I'm not talking about transient change. I'm talking about lasting change, helping you transform your life. Now, discomfort is incredibly valuable, and it is the thing that we avoid most. Every decision we make in life is generally geared to what is going to bring us greater joy, help us feel more comfortable, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But there's a paradox here. In order to achieve success, in order to enjoy your life, you actually need to intentionally move towards some level of discomfort. And if you don't, well, discomfort's going to find you. So, preparing ourselves for those times, practicing what it takes to become the vessel that can hold the light that we want to bring into the world, that's what this conversation's all about. Now, I say that, I use that metaphor, bringing light into the world, because that is what we are doing, whether we realize it or not. Your goals, your ambitions, the dreams and desires that you feel in your heart, those things that wake up with you and lie down with you at night, they're actually gifts from the Creator that are trying to find their way into the manifest world. Now, it's incredible that we get to be vessels and opportunities to bring creation to life. It is one of the great gifts of being a human. And like every other gift, this one comes with a level of responsibility and dedication. Now, the first thing that I'm going to suggest we have to do in order to get comfortable with discomfort is to intellectually know that it's good for us. We can do this by looking at examples in the world around us. I've already mentioned the lignum vitae trees in the previous episode, but we can highlight maybe some different areas where this stands out, such as going to the gym, developing skills in a new sport. You know as well as I do, if you're going to build muscle, if you're going to improve your health, then you have to push your boundaries. If you're going to improve skill, you have to push your boundaries. You will never improve by staying in the comfort zone. I remember years ago when I began working with sacred mushrooms on my own. And I mean, when I moved past the recreational stage and began exploring these compounds for sincere, intentional, spiritual, and personal growth, that's actually when the experiences began to get more challenging. I ate mushrooms with some friends to have some fun. Sure, there would be some awkwardness, some challenge that arose. But when my intention with these experiences became that of my growth, then I was forced to experience some rather uncomfortable aspects of myself. And I've witnessed this over the years with the many thousands of people that I've worked with. This is inherent in the experience when directed towards growth and expansion. It's also the experience that you'll have in your life without any substances if you seek to grow and expand. Now, what struck me particularly odd about this work that I would do is that it wasn't often apparent until weeks, sometimes months later, that a difficult psychedelic experience had a positive effect on me. I compared it to going into a boxing ring. You didn't know that it was actually good for you to get punched in the face. And, of course, I resisted it. And it's very common. Once folks have an experience or two under their belt and they realize how challenging it can be, then there can develop a significant amount of resistance to going into the space. This weekend, I just held ceremony for 14 individuals, and 2 of them wisely anticipated difficult experiences, so much so that they were in tears of fear going towards it. But you know what they did? So beautifully, they went towards it anyway. Not only that, but they took the highest dose that we would permit. They knew that they were in for some discomfort. And the irony is, because they were ready for discomfort, they experienced less of it. You see, when we mentally prepare ourselves for a challenging experience, then we've done a lot of the work beforehand. We've expanded our vessel. We've opened ourselves up to the reality that growth is not comfortable. And just by holding space for this in our minds, it becomes an expanded part of our experience and actually gives us more capacity with less pain. It's a beautiful thing. It's a paradox. This is also reflected in the Kabbalah. The teachings in the Kabbalah, as again, I use this metaphor of the light. This is where that comes from, is that we are all vessels holding the light of the Creator, that our dreams and ambitions are that light trying to come into the world, and that when we embrace discomfort, that is the cracking, the expansion of our vessel for greater capacity. And when we proactively seek discomfort, even just in meditation, yes, you can sit in meditation and visualize the challenges, and you will be more prepared for them when they arise. This has been proven in athletics. This has been proven in muscle building. Those who actually practice the skill that they're seeking to gain in their minds are more adept at it than those who didn't. You can absolutely expand your vessel and your capacity simply through meditation. It will be uncomfortable, but it will be so rewarding. And when we see that, when we experience intellectually the value of discomfort, then we can begin making smaller steps, perhaps, into our lived experience that embraces discomfort. Now, what are some examples of how we can do this in small ways? Well, maybe there's a conversation you've been needing to have with someone, maybe your spouse or your child. To this day, I joked about it over the weekend. My parents have still not talked to me about sex. And that was detrimental to me and to them. It was a growth opportunity that was missed out on because they were not capable of stepping into their discomfort. Now, I have love and respect for them still, and fortunately, I've learned a few things along the way. But there's a reality that the uncomfortable conversations are the ones that will help us grow, that will provide the ones that we need to speak to with the opportunities for growth. This has been a challenge for me over the years in business as I have wanted people to feel good about themselves. I've had a fair amount of people pleasing in my behavioral repertoire, as I've spoken of in the most recent podcast series. And I have found that when I just courageously and compassionately speak the uncomfortable thing, that everybody benefits. Our words are our first interface with the creative world. This is how we express our desires and ambitions. This is how we express our boundaries and how we relate to other people. It can be very uncomfortable, and yet it can be so empowering to say the thing that needs to be said. I've seen this many times with my wife. I've seen this many times with my children. I've seen this many times with employees, and I want to encourage you, find a place in your life, find a conversation that needs to be had. Everybody has one. Maybe it's just with yourself. Maybe you just need to have a moment where you come to terms with the reality of your lifestyle, your actions, your behaviors, your ways of thinking. You know, my wife pointed out to me early on in our relationship how critical I was of myself, how painful it was for her to hear me speak so negatively to myself. And I know that was difficult for her to say. It was even more difficult, I suspect, for me to acknowledge to myself. I brushed it off for years. This is just how I hold myself accountable. And when I came to terms with the reality that I was abusing myself, only then could I grow. Only then could I transform and leave that old self behind, which is so much a part of what we're doing when we're stepping into discomfort. You know, this is the subject of the ego death that's often spoken of in psychedelic culture. Your ego knows that you will be a different person after this experience, and it clutches on with all of its might because what the ego doesn't want is change. It wants comfort. It wants the ease of things being like they are, of knowing predictability. And yet that is stagnancy. Another way that you can explore this small step into discomfort is taking a class or beginning a program that you've wanted to for a while. And you can start small. You can just do a virtual online on-demand course. No one has to see you. Putting it into practice is where you'll be finding yourself stepping into discomfort. I'm preparing to launch a 12-week program for those who are uncomfortable with nature. Now, this is a place, this is an aspect of life that I am so comfortable with. I am very at ease in the natural world. It struck me the other day as I was lighting a fire how so many men, grown men, literally do not know how to start a fire. And that is a very uncomfortable thing, particularly for a man to admit. And if you're watching this right now and you feel that brush of discomfort, it's okay. Just know that it's a growth edge. In this 12-week program, we're going to be exploring specific ways that we can get reacquainted with nature, that we can observe our own behaviors. We can observe in nature models that we can apply into our own lives. We can push our comfort zone, step into areas where we know that we need to grow, and by doing so, become more of who we're meant to be. If that's something that interests you, then I would invite you to sign up for my email list on my website. The link is in the bio. Another example of someone who moved into discomfort by moving away from habitual behavior is an individual I've been working with for several years. Now, this is a beautiful story that I want to relate to you. This is a person who felt comfortable in pushing back. Someone who felt like it was their job to stand up for the suffering, to go to bat for the people who couldn't speak up for themselves. And I'm not saying in any way that that isn't necessary or helpful. But as this individual found out, sometimes suffering in order to help others who are suffering just leads to more suffering. And what she uncovered through her work with the mushrooms is that seeking joy would actually help to end suffering far faster than suffering alongside those who can't seem to find their way out. The beautiful example that she gave that I reflect on so often, there was a protest that she had planned on going to. No kings, protest the government, whatever your political affiliations, doesn't matter. But Her husband asked her, on this instance, to go with him to a family event, some gathering at a park. I don't remember what it was. And she resisted initially, felt really responsible, like the responsible thing to do was to go do what she was comfortable with and protest. Well, after a little while of assessing the situation, she decided, no, I think I should go with my husband. It's been a while since I've done something with him, and he's asking me to, and I'm going to oblige him. And so she went, and she took her camera. A practice or a hobby that she's taken up that didn't start out comfortably. It was pushing a boundary for her to take a camera to the public and take pictures of people. And so, anyway, she took this camera to this event and began taking pictures of people enjoying themselves. And during this small event, out of her comfort zone, she realized the lesson that the mushroom had shared with her previously. And that in sharing her joy with these photographs, she was actually doing more to end suffering than she was in going down to protest at a rally. And I thought this was an incredibly powerful lesson. You may not agree with it. I'm not here to find agreement or disagreement. I'm here to acknowledge that this individual, not doing the thing that she was accustomed to doing, going into her discomfort zone, allowed her to have a realization that she had been working to have, seeking for perhaps a decade. I've been working with her for 8 years, so it's at least been 8 years that she has been seeking to viscerally understand the value of joy. And it was only through ceasing a behavior that she was comfortable with and stepping into an uncomfortable action or opportunity that that lesson finally integrated and solidified. My respect for this individual goes so far. Finally, the third way that we can push our comfort zone is by engaging in community. There is probably no greater opportunity to face discomfort than to continue showing up, particularly in a personal growth community like the one we're creating at Psanctuary. Now, Psanctuary is a faith-based organization and community centered around sacred mushrooms. It is an opportunity for individuals to access these powerful tools for their spiritual and personal growth in the context of community. And while I do work with private individuals, I can promise you that the growth that happens in community is exponential compared to that happens alone. Why is this? Simply because you will be confronted with discomfort. You will see your shadow reflected in others. You will see your fears and concerns and worries and doubts reflected in others. You will see your judgments reflected in others. And if you just keep coming back, if you just don't give up when it gets uncomfortable, you will grow beyond your wildest dreams. Now, I've seen a lot of people who come right up against that edge of discomfort and they run, they leave, and it breaks my heart every single time because I know that they are right at the verge of a growth opportunity, that if they would just stay there, if they would just let the discomfort wash over them, they would find freedom on the other side. And this doesn't mean that we have to agree with everyone. We won't. But that is exactly what it means to be in community. Freedom of speech doesn't matter if we just get to say words that we like. Freedom of speech only matters when it applies to speech that is uncomfortable, to the things that we don't want to hear. There are so many ways that you can see how discomfort leads to growth. Intellectually understanding it, taking small steps to embrace it, moving into conscientious community. These are three powerful ways that you can stair-step your way into the discomfort zone. I'm not a sadist. I love comfort and I enjoy having a good time and pleasure as much as anybody else. But pleasure is only pleasurable if it is on the other side of discomfort. Eventually, if it's just pleasure, well, even that can become uncomfortable. You see, in our society, we are facing, many call it a mental health epidemic, depression, anxiety, all of the troublesome worries and fears that haunt us. Perhaps here in the United States, it's because we have had too little to actually worry about. We have become a society that seeks comfort. We pick up our phones every time we want to avoid reality. We have alcohol there at every corner stop. We have the panacea of churches and spiritual bypassing. All those things have value. I'm not knocking churches. I love communities of faith. I have a drink of alcohol every now and then. What is important to consider is whether or not we're leaning on these things as crutches or avoidance. Even if our faith is an opportunity for us to spiritually bypass, to avoid discomfort, then it is a disservice to our soul. And that is what I'm here to do, is grow my soul and help you grow and expand yours. Thank you for spending your time with me today. If you have enjoyed this video or found value in it, please like, comment, subscribe, share. I'll see you on the next one.